My name is George Galloway. I'm a Member of Parliament in Britain for the Bethnal Green and Bow constituency in the East End of London. I'm also the Vice Chairman of the Stop the War Coalition in Britain, responsible for the mass demonstrations against war and occupation over these last years. I'm very grateful to those who have helped me get this message to the people of Canada. I haven't given up hope that I will be able to visit you in person over the next few days. I know that many people were looking forward to hearing what I had to say and have been disappointed by the decision of the Canadian government to declare me inadmissible on bogus security grounds, which really have failed to disguise the fact that this is an attack on not just my freedom to speak, I don't want to sound too precious about that, but your freedom to hear and to hear the full range of views about the problems afflicting the world, including Canada. And these range from the war that's raging in Afghanistan, which is taking a terrible toll on the young soldiers of Canada, not to mention the terrible toll, far more terrible, on the people of Afghanistan, right through the continued occupation of Iraq, and ending in the Gaza Strip, where I have recently led a convoy of more than 100 British vehicles, more than 300 British volunteers, all British citizens, to break the siege on Gaza after the 22-day blizzard of death and destruction visited on them by the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli Navy and Army. The convoy turns out to be the real reason why the Canadian government has banned me. Their original statement seemed to indicate that I was being banned because of my views about the Afghan war. But by the time the official proclamation was received by me, it was all about a bogus attempt to link the bringing in of dozens of ambulances, trucks full of wheelchairs, medicine, food, blankets, tents, biscuits into Gaza on our convoy. Well, it's a very peculiar, indeed perverse definition of terrorism to suggest that someone bringing much needed relief to a population which has been desperately assailed and is now locked down under siege, to define that as terrorism is to leave the word with no meaning and to bankrupt it of all value. I'm against terrorism as it happens, and I fully acknowledge Canada's right to maintain its security. But no one can seriously consider me a security risk to Canada. I have visited Canada many times. I have spoken at large rallies in many cities. I have appeared on the best television programs, radio shows, and given interviews to the main newspapers in Canada, time almost without number. The idea that I turned overnight into a security risk is just, well, foolish. And, you know, I'm a political man, so I know that politicians can make foolish decisions sometimes. They have to be given some wriggle room to get out of them. And if they won't, then the judiciary, which has the duty of ensuring that all government decisions in a free country, governed by laws, are reasonable ones. And this is just an unreasonable decision. So either I hope that the Minister will withdraw his declaration of my inadmissibility, or that a judge somewhere in Canada will decide that this was an unreasonable decision. That is to say, a decision to which no good reason can be adduced. So, the tour continues. I'm speaking to you here from the United States of America. I'm touring the United States of America, speaking to large audiences. It seems odd, doesn't it, that Canada, which was until very recently the kinder and more gentle part of North America, should be banning me whilst the United States is welcoming me. You know, you can be more royal than the king, you can even be more Catholic than the Pope, but to be more anti-terrorist, quote unquote, than the United States Patriot Act and all is, as I say, a little perverse. I'm continuing with my US tour, and I will address those who wish to hear me in the meetings in Canada over the next few days. There's no question of the tour being cancelled. There's no question of my speech being gagged, because the technology exists now for me to address you through other means than being there in person. But the main reason I would like to be there in person, and I say this to those who disagree with me in Canada, is so that I can see you face to face and we can discuss these matters. That's the essence of democratic debate. As I say, it's not just about my freedom to speak, it's about your freedom to hear and to argue with me. So if I do make it into Canada, I hope that those who disagree with me will come to the meetings and will put their point of view, and we can have a civilized and democratic discussion about the points on which we differ. We may in the end have to agree to disagree, but at least we'll be able to look into the whites of each other's eyes as we discuss them, rather than you having to listen to me down a satellite television line in which you can't really get to grips with me and my arguments. I want to thank all the people in Canada for the signing of petitions, the mounting of protests, and the thousands of emails and SMSs and letters which I've received from Canadians in Canada and living overseas who are outraged at this decision which the Canadian government has made. I do hope that one day I will get the chance to talk to you. I hope that day comes sooner rather than later, but it will of course come one day. And until then, I'd like to thank you for all your support. The tour continues. It's the Palestine tour. Palestine is the key for me, and I believe for you, and I want to get the opportunity to persuade you of that. Until I see you, God willing, may you go in peace.